You heard it here first last night on the Kelly File when we broke down President Obama's speech at the United Nations yesterday and discovered a shift in tone that had our current president sounding an awful lot like his predecessor, the one he criticized. When reporters today challenged the White House on that comparison, the administration said, quote, attempts to draw direct parallels missed the clear differences between presidents, end quote. But then former Bush speechwriter Mark Thiessen sent us a couple more examples. Watch.
You can't reason with these people. There's no need to negotiate with them.
There can be no reasoning, no negotiation with this brand of evil.
We must be steadfast in the face of these cold-blooded killers. You cannot negotiate with these people. You cannot, you cannot hope for the best when it comes to these people. Therapy is not going to work. The only way to deal with them is to bring them to justice.
The only language understood by killers like this is the language of force.
Mark Thiessen was President Bush's chief speechwriter, and he is now an American Enterprise Institute fellow. Dana Perino is also here. She was President Bush's press secretary from 2007 to 2009, and she is co-host of The Five right here on FNC. Welcome to you both. Let me start with you on that, Mark. It was stark, and I encourage the viewers to go to Facebook.com/The Kelly File because we posted the much longer piece we did comparing the two last night. It's dead on. It could be the same man, and yet President Obama could not have been more critical of President Bush's foreign policy when he was running for this office.
Oh, absolutely. And look, the White House is denying that there's any parallels here. Let's not forget, a few months ago, President Obama was saying things like, the tide of war is receding. We can focus on nation building here at home. Now he's at war with a network of killers. I mean, to the idea that this isn't some sort of a massive rhetorical shift is absurd. But the thing is, I'm less concerned with what he says than what he does. Any president can go to the United Nations and deliver a strongly worded statement. That's the easy part. The hard part is making the tough decisions necessary to protect the country. Is he going to, when they run out of bombing targets, is he going to listen to his commanders on the ground and who are saying that we need boots on the ground, or is he going to ignore them? And is he going to make the same mistakes in Afghanistan he made in Iraq that caused this whole crisis in the first place? So I'm looking to see what the president does, not what he says.
Dana?
Well, remember when Secretary Gates' book came out, one of the things that made news was that he said that it became clear to him that President Obama didn't actually believe the Afghanistan policy that he had just talked about. When President Bush said those words, the policy came out of a principle, and the speech writing and the rhetoric followed. In some ways, we have the reverse situation now, that the speech and the rhetoric is said, and that you have a policy that's trying to catch up. I think that the White House and the administration would have been perfectly within their right and actually been better off if they had just said, of course it sounds the same, because President Obama has fought terror just like President Bush did. Moving on.
Yeah.
Instead, they're trying to continually show that President Obama has always been almost at war with President Bush, but he doesn't need to be anymore. We have a common enemy. We should all focus on that one together. If they want to use the language that President Bush used, I'm all for it. I take it as a compliment.
But the question is, as you point out, Mark, what is the real policy now? Because we've had a situation where Barack Obama ran for president saying, we will change course. I'm running for president to change course, not continue George Bush's course and his failed foreign policy and fear-mongering of the past. That's what he promised. Then he got into office. He pulled us out of Iraq. He promised to pull us out of Afghanistan after the surge, no matter what the generals said. And he touted that. He went before the UN last year and said, I got us out of Iraq. There's no troops left. I'm going to do the same thing in Afghanistan. And then the terror army, known as ISIS, which was JV, according to him, 9 months ago, emerged, started beheading Americans, started threatening jihad, and now suddenly he sounds like he's become George Bush.
Yeah, I know, but the problem becomes is he's so desperate to distinguish himself from George W. Bush that he seems more concerned about that than he is with defeating this enemy. I mean, the fact that he continues to, because he wants to show a difference with Bush, he's been so adamant about no boots on the ground that even we can't. He doesn't want to send tens of thousands of troops into Afghanistan or into Iraq. They want forward air controllers to help make this operation more effective, to pick out targets. They want to embed people with the indigenous forces there so they can be more effective. And he's tied himself into a corner with his rhetoric, not for any military strategy, but for political reasons, because he doesn't want to seem like Bush. I think Dana's absolutely right. He should say, yes, we're both fighting terror. We're doing it slightly differently, but it's the same enemy, and it's going to require all elements of national power.
But can he really do it, Dana? Because you look look back on the other things he said when he was running for president, remember the promises about the Muslim world. The day I'm inaugurated, the country looks at itself differently, and so does the Muslim world. That will make us safer. I will make us safer with the Muslim world. Well, has he?
I think that if you were, well, the polls show that if you asked Americans a question, do you feel safer today than you did 6 years ago? The answer is clearly no. The president is trying to catch up on that. And I think that there's two other problems. In 2012, what was the line from the campaign? Al-Qaeda is on the run. Al-Qaeda is decimated. Clearly, from your previous reporting tonight even, Al-Qaeda is not dead.
No, that's the Khorasan group. They have a total rebrand.
In addition, they have another big problem, and it's a policy problem that is driving their rhetoric problem, and that is that just a couple of months ago, the administration asked the Congress to withdraw the authorization to use military force that is granted to the president because they didn't need it anymore. Now, all of a sudden, they are basing their actions taken in Syria, which I support, on the authorization to use military force, but they're so betwixt and between and determined to not be caught up in winning the news cycle that they get themselves all bollocksed up. And I think their communications could be a lot more clear if they just were to say, yes, that is what we said then. We are now going to use the authorization to use military force. Thank you very much.
Right. This is Al-Qaeda. This is the group that attacked us, and we're allowed to use it. Dana, good to see you. Mark, you too.